I will introduce the panel, and then I'll talk real quick around why I think this is one of the more exciting topics here. Great. So we have Viren Balar, who's from ZIAS. ZIAS.
Yep, you got it.
Yeah, I told him I was going to get that wrong. Judy Chan, who's a Senior Product Marketing Manager at Urban Airship. Christopher Bernard, President and Co-founder of Points. And Michelle Dupre, and get this, she is the Group VP for Retail, Hospitality, and Distribution for Verizon Enterprise Solutions. So I think she wins the title award. Not to be confused with like the telco consumer side of things. She spends most of her time dealing with merchants and hospitality companies and how they interact with Verizon. Cool. So the topic today is digital wallets and loyalty, which I jumped on because I'm somewhat of a skeptic on your Apple Pays and your general purpose digital wallets because they lack the kind of reason to use or reason to believe. So when you think back to September 9th, 2014, which was when Apple Pay announced the launch, lots of excitement, lots of articles, everybody was chatting. A couple months later, McKinsey did a study and showed that penetration was about 7% of people who had the ability had tried it. So fast forward 2 years later, our most recent, we fielded the same survey with the same question, and it's now at 10%. So you haven't seen the adoption that everybody thought would have. It's not that exciting. If you look for a place where we've seen really great success, you can look to Starbucks. So Starbucks is a wallet. It's QR code. 21% of all Starbucks transactions are using their wallet. Now, why does that take place, right? I remember sitting around with IT guys, 5 years ago, and we would have incessant arguments about NFC versus QR code. You all heard it yesterday a little bit. What's better? None of that matters, right? What matters is that somebody can open an app, not stand in line, and get some points. And oh, by the way, we're going to make you pay for it in a difficult way and use a prepaid function and all this stuff. But it works, right? So the most used wallet today right now is a QR code. It's not, which isn't as good as the other things. It forces people into a certain payments mechanism, and that's not as good. So the difference here is it's about the loyalty factor of this thing. So the loyalty points that you earn, and those are the things that are going to be driving this. So I think the panel today should explore how does that loyalty thing become more pervasive? What are the other roadblocks that might get in the way of wallet penetration? And what can we do both as on the inside of this and what can we do on the merchant side of this to try to help push adoption along? So with that, I'm going to turn it over to each panelist to kind of do a quick introduction on their own as well.
I hope you can all hear me fine. Viren Balar from Ziosk. Ziosk was founded about 7-8 years back with our ability to solve a major point that we've all felt in restaurants when we dine out. How many of you give out your credit cards to wait staff every night? Pretty much everybody, right? I mean, if I was in a retail chain, ask you, hey, give me your credit card for 5 minutes. I'll go around the corner, I'll come back. We're all going to be extremely paranoid about it. But yet, in one space, and only one space, we allow ourselves to be in that position and happily do it every night. Well, Ziosk was started with that pain point, saying, well, we want to allow pay at the table. Very different from what Europe does, where they bring in you a Verifone or an Ingenico device saying, all right, whenever you're ready. In US, that creates a whole lot of other challenges, operationally, obviously. It's 11:45 at lunch on Friday, and waiter dropped your terminal to pay on it, like we do in Europe. And we started chatting again. Waiter isn't going to come by and say, guys, I need that back. I'm going to give it to the next table because they're ready to check out. So Ziosk has one terminal on every table inside the restaurant we deploy in. It's a portable terminal. A lot of you must have seen it in Chili's. We are in all the Chili's. We're in all the Olive Gardens. We're in all the Red Robins among the major brands. We're in 3,000 plus restaurants. 200,000 Ziosk are deployed out in North America right now. And every month, 50 million guests are touching on Ziosk every month. So what does it do for the restaurants, right? Ton of value for them. Surveys, we have done 1 billion plus surveys right now. The voice of the customer, very important for the restaurants. Second is obviously the value of pay, the security of card never leaving my hand. Plus, we've taken the security whole another level by introducing point-to-point encryption, tokenization, and now even EMV and mobile payments for our restaurant customers. The other thing is, it's a marketing tool for the restaurant brands, right? You can put marketing on steroids instead of having to do menu changes, print it out, send it to the restaurants. We can do it in real time. It's a touchscreen device. You can create a very engaging experience for the restaurant's customers. And think of it, right? If you don't have a Ziosk, the restaurants lose the customers on their phone, right? It's not a branded experience. Ziosk creates a branded experience, one on every table. I can go on and on. By the way, I'll pause there and let my colleagues introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Judy Chan. I work for a company called Urban Airship. What we do is we just kind of go around the sky in our airships. We're just kidding. We get a lot of questions about why we're called Urban Airship, but that's a story for another day. So our company is a mobile marketing SaaS company. We help thousands of brands basically build and grow their business on mobile through activities such as mobile engagement on apps and then also for mobile wallets. How many of you guys here have the Starbucks app downloaded on your phone? All right. How many of you guys recall seeing a message after you've made your purchase on your app, and as you walk out of the store, it says, hey, you've got an hour to tip your barista. Thank you for coming in. Thank you. So that's the type of technology that we power, which is the notifications and the deep level engagement within the app. And then on the other side of the house is the mobile wallets piece, which is the ability for us to help brands generate these mobile wallets that then get integrated into the Apple Pay and Android Pay platform for the brands. So really it's given brands a footprint on mobile so that they can actually talk to their customers. We've got the technology to do that for them.
Thanks, Michelle. My name's Christopher Barnard. As I was introduced, founder and president of Points. Some people know us as Points.com. We are an e-commerce company that works with large global loyalty programs, frequent flyer, hotel, credit card, and retail programs. We've integrated their back-end loyalty banks and systems into our platform to effectively create what I like to draw the parallel between would be the Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, Stripe kind of version of transaction capability for loyalty points and miles. So we're able to verify a member of a loyalty program, a member validation, effectively the first part of a security, securing a transaction. And then based on our direct integration into their back-end systems, again, much like a PayPal would have access into a bank account, we have access into people's frequent flyer, hotel, or credit card accounts to transact in their currency of choice, their miles or points. So we can deposit points into someone's account or debit points out of someone's account, and then manage a payment stream beside that to pay for whatever the transaction is, whether someone's earning their miles as a reward or using their points as a form of payment. We do that for 70 plus programs around the world. This year we launched a new service called the Points Loyalty Wallet, which effectively gives developers very simple API access to multiple loyalty programs to be able to conduct those kind of transactions. We believe, obviously, that just the penetration of loyalty across the board in the retail world really forces mobile wallets and other payment apps to try to figure out how to integrate loyalty transactions as a core part of the payment process. I think it's worked previously in the payments world with credit cards and co-branded credit cards, and hopefully we'll talk a bit about that later. But for us, it's really about the end transaction, to be able to actually give a consumer a mile or point that they want, or let them use their miles and points in a new way through this new mobile payments channel.
All right. Good morning, I'm Michelle Dupre, and with the introduction, I do get the prize for the longest and most complex, I think, title. But really, I'm here representing Verizon, and again, Verizon being a very global and complex organization. We're here to, as we said, deliver the digital world or the connected world, and I think the presentation before this panel really emphasizes just how connected we will become and how connected parts of the world are today. So I'm here representing the retail, hospitality, and distribution practice. I have the responsibility and privilege to work with some of the most recognized global brands, and really look forward to continuing the discussion.
Great, so I'll ask the first question, and then we'll open it up for everybody else's questions. So this is a multi-part question.
Yes.
So in McKinsey's last survey around why people aren't using digital wallets, so specifically asked the question to only those who refused adoption, they ranked the top 3 reasons as number 1, security, so that's probably no surprise to anybody. But number 2 was it's easier to just use cash and credit when checking out. And number 3 was, well, I don't get any benefits for using the digital wallet, so why should I use it? So with those 3, I'd love to hear, and Michelle, let's start with you, because we'll hear about the security and what can be overcome there. And then Judy and Christopher, I'd love to hear your thoughts on, like, how do you tackle 2 and 3 about making it easier and creating a reason to want to use it?
Great. So in terms of security, one of the pieces that I'll comment is it is about creating this false sense of security and ensuring that consumers truly understand the application and kind of the back end of what is that application, what does it mean, what does it do, and clearly understand what data are they giving up and what data is at risk. So the comment that I'll make there is that Verizon is the data breach investigations report. If you're not familiar with it, I would highly recommend. It's a great read. And what it is, it's 11 years of study around data breaches, and it is contributed by 70 other providers beyond Verizon. And what I'll comment there is that I think the challenge that we're going to face in the digital world is based on the previous, breaches, the bad actors, as we say, they go to where the money is. So I think one of the good news is as we shift from an e-commerce platform, so with the point of sale, we talked about that in the presentation earlier, they go to where the money is. So when the point of sale, devices were improved and, the skimmers were, prevented and we kind of, held that at bay. The bad actors went to the e-commerce platforms, and when they go to the e-commerce platforms, again, we're being able to decipher and figure out, bad traffic that sits on the internet. So as we shift to this digital world and digital wallets, it's only a course of time before the bad actors start looking at those platforms. So, the key is that as consumers, I think consumers really need to understand what information do they have and how is it secured? And I think the panelists here can also explain from an application standpoint, what they're doing to ensure that level of security is there. And then also just being aware, that a credit card, the analogy that we use is that a credit card is, it's an on and off transaction. And in a digital world, it's like that phone is always connected to the internet. So I think people just need to be painfully aware of the potential of the applications that they're using and be mindful of, that a rogue app, an email, a suspicious email, the behavior that you have as the consumer sitting in front of your laptop should not be any different than when you're using your mobile device. And again, the security piece, I think, is going to be something that's top of mind. We need to continue to focus on it. The good news is looking at the history and some of the patterns that we've seen, I think we're in a position that we can certainly prevent and make sure that the applications that consumers and loyalty programs that they're using are secure. So, long-winded.
Sure. So I think that for loyalty, there's a lot of really great reasons why people should build digital mobile wallet loyalty cards, right? We know that, at least in our survey, we recently had released a State of Mobile Wallet Marketing survey. We know that 67% of the folks want a mobile wallet loyalty solution, and 60% of them have tried it. So you think, well, so is there a huge untapped market there? Especially for the merchants and brands who haven't thought about a digital wallet loyalty card. I think it's time to start thinking about it, right? People are aware of it. So the good news there is loyalty is, in my opinion, the way to get into the Android Pay and Apple Pays of the world. Like we have conversations with Apple and Google around this about like, what can we do to help elevate the experience and at the same time nurture the flow and the habits around getting people to adopt mobile wallets, right? So like for our business, we handle mobile wallets on the non-payment side, and obviously we have to have strong partnerships on the payment side so that we can all move together, right? One stat I do want to share with you guys out of the survey is that on the mobile payments, we asked a question about how many people are interested in using mobile wallets, mobile payment. The survey's 2,000 folks across the US and the UK, 55% are interested. Now, you guys want to take a guess how many people are actually using it? Right, so point being is that there is a huge pent-up demand, and I think, Michelle, you spoke about the security issues, and I think that is definitely one reason why people are not adopting it, right? But on the flip side is, okay, if there's so many people who want it, then what's the catalyst to drive that? So then we asked a follow-up question and we said, well, if your loyalty points and balances are integrated directly into Apple Pay and Android Pay, how much more likely are you to use mobile wallets? That number jumped to 73%. So that's huge. Now, granted, our survey, this was a digital survey, so, it's not like we went out and had people, that are not more tech-centric, right? But I think it really speaks to the fact that we are talking about early adopters in this market.
I definitely reiterate some of the points that Judy made, but I'd use an example and think back 30 years ago when credit cards weren't as popular. There was, I don't remember that much back then, believe it or not, even though the gray hair, but there was the credit card industry is trying to get adoption for a new form of payment, and the pushback was always, well, it's pretty easy to write a check when I'm at Safeway, so why is a credit card any better than that? And the second use case that the industry was trying to push was the security of travel with your credit card. But obviously, nothing could be more secure than an American Express traveler's check. So I have these two forms of payment, a check and a traveler's check, that seem to be pretty good. So I think back to Robert's point on the move to mobile payment. You have to have something that's better. If it's not better, you have to have benefit that's above and beyond the current form of payment. And if you look, I actually haven't seen a chart like this, but I'm picturing it in my head if I could ever dig out the data. When about almost 30 years ago now, the first co-branded credit card with frequent flyer miles, led by American Airlines, and then quickly, weeks later, followed up by United Airlines. When that launched, all of a sudden the consumer was then presented with that benefit that overweighed the fact that it wasn't actually any easier, or at least they thought wasn't any easier than a check or a traveler's check. And the use of credit cards and the participation in loyalty points programs are a very correlated line since effectively that date. And we see it, and I think it's getting a little bit, I guess, depressingly old example that Starbucks is the only successful one, but it's the only one that's actually integrated loyalty dramatically into the application. It is when I go into a Starbucks, it is much easier just to swipe my credit card or tap it. I'm from Toronto, so we get to tap things a lot easier than you do here. But swiping a card and walking away with your latte for $9 is really easy. Digging out my phone, logging in, putting in my passwords, pushing the pay button, shaking it to get my QR code, all that is way more difficult. But I'm getting my stars, and so that's why I take the pain of a less convenient payment method, because I want my 12th cup of coffee for free. That, I think, can be replicated in any mobile platform. I think the problem that we're trying to solve is the technical problem of access to that transaction. I'd only half agree with Judy that the benefit of having someone's points and miles balance on their card is somewhat useful information, but if you can't do anything about it, it's almost like having your checking account balance show up in your mobile wallet, but you're not allowed to pay with it, or you're not allowed to deposit money into your checking account. So yes, it's kind of interesting to know I have $4,297 in my checking account, but if I can't do anything with it, it has very limited functionality. So for us, it's all about having that information in the payment vehicle, but also the ability to give that extra benefit. So give a bonus in United Mileage Plus Miles if I buy that sweater instead of the other sweater, or allow me to earn more Hilton Honors points by shopping at Safeway because I'm not a member of the retailer's loyalty program. And that's a significant technical challenge because you have to have integrations with the multiple loyalty programs, and again, that's the back-end plumbing part that we're trying to solve at Points.
I like the history lesson because we're kind of in the middle of the battle and we forget about this. You think about, if you ask a banker where were credit cards invented, they'll pull out this Diners Club example in Manhattan and all this stuff. But if you ask a retailer where it was invented, they'll go back even further and say, look, retailers created in-store credit, and that was the first thing. If you go to Target's headquarters in Minneapolis, they've got a museum, and in there they've got some of the very first stamp cards that Dayton Hudson was using. I guess it was Dayton's back in that day, but that far predated anything that Diners Club was doing. So if you put your retailer hat on, you find, like, we invented the credit card and then we lost ownership of it. We invented loyalty programs and then the banks took them over in cashback and miles programs on the card side of things. We're now sitting in a spot where there are these wallets out there that want to integrate a loyalty platform. We're not going to lose that battle again. So the successful one about Starbucks is where the actual retailer owns the whole experience, and the banks and the networks have not wormed their way into that experience. And I think why you see Ziosk having such great adoption rate at major places is they're not bringing along the bank and the network. They're providing this kind of safe place where data is not going to get lost or that customer interface isn't going to go somewhere. So this is the battlefield. It's a battlefield around the customer interface, and the winner is going to be the one that can provide this seamless reason to want to use or reason to believe. It could be banks, it could be retailers, or it could be third-party players like the Googles of the world.
Well, so there are key benefits. So this is my view of it, right? The issuing banks, which are the lion's share of where the cards and the wallets are going to get issued on, it's still not. I mean, if you look at Apple Pay, right? They've probably got the widest adoption of what I can provision in my wallet. Samsung Pay, Android Pay is still limited. You're not going to be able to put your credit union debit card in there. You're not going to be able to put all those. So those integration points are emerging over time. But your point is valid. One important.
That didn't bother Starbucks.
They did their own thing,
but,
right?
But I mean, there is an element to it, right? So we can say, let's take your point, right, which says, all right, why doesn't every retailer out there or large-scale retailer create their own application? There is also another side of that barrier is how many apps are you going to have in your phone? You're not going to have more than 30, 40 apps. At least I don't have it, and I've checked with the majority of them. They're saying, if I have more than 40 apps, I'm going to get lost. We're already drowning in the apps world. So the world where you have channels, wallet is an app. If you have that app do multiple things, multiple cards, if I can put any card in there, if I can put any loyalty card in there, if I can put any gift card and stored value cards in there, I am in. I think everybody in this audience would be in as well. So one thing I want to mention, sorry, one last point I want to mention. This is really what happened on security on my end. Me and my wife had a card. My wife lost it during the holidays, 15th holidays, December timeframe. Called up the bank and said, we lost a card. They're saying, we'll expedite it, we'll share it to you overnight. Still take a couple of days to get it in our hand because right in the middle of the holiday season. But I had that card provision in my phone and her phone. Instantly, we got that new card provision inside the wallet, and I could start using it that day. Not everywhere, Again, if it was accepted everywhere, it would work. So I got my card in real time. That to me is security. That to me is convenience.
So this is a good question. I want to make sure we get to one more question here before we run
Can
out of
I-
time. But I want to go, let's go down each panelist and just in like 2 minutes, because there's no answer to your question, but I think there's
Yeah,
great
so
perspectives.
I'll comment. So there are other apps beyond Starbucks, and they're really good coffee makers, so I won't give the brand out, but predominant in the Northeast. The one piece that I think that we're overlooking is that when you look at retailers, you know, it's about the technology, and again, they had no motivation other than that they knew they needed to capture brand loyalty and attention, but it all went to that point of sale device. So you think about the margins of which, you know, retailers that they operate on. Technology is sometimes the last thing that they invest in. So until they went to EMV, because again, EMV solved for, you had a ubiquitous, you know, terminal at the point of sale device that you could do a digital, you know, tap. So I think that that's something you gotta take into consideration when you think about the adoption, is that I don't think the technology was there to enable the retailers and the quick service restaurants to really launch it to the extent that they wanted it to. The other piece I'll say is that I think as retailers, you know, again, they understand the power of data, and that's something that I think over time, and we talked about the shift of who owns that data, the more that they know about their consumer, the better customer experience that they can have. And it also helps not just with the outward experience, but it also helps with supply chain. They understand buying patterns. They understand, you know, merchandising. I think we're at this point that before it was cool, and now I think we're at this point of it's an evolution of data and the willingness to invest in technology.
Yeah, so coming from the mobile world, I really want to make a comment, Viren, about the app versus no app concept, right? So obviously, Starbucks is a runaway success story. It's, you know, one that many merchants want to emulate, which is great. But I think, you know, the truth be told is that not everyone can do that, right? Requires a lot of resources that probably everyone here will say they're always short on resources. So, you know, I think mobile wallets today, at least on the non-payment side, it's evolving, right? We've gotten to the point that we can actually do interesting things such as, like, you know, you've got your point balance and then say, hey, you've just, congratulations, you've just made it to the next level, right? And your mobile wallet item changes, right? So you can do those type of dynamic updates, and those are the type of things that I think merchants should be looking at as a way to kind of elevate the overall experience, right? Now, app versus no app, right? Should you go ahead and build an app and try to do the Starbucks model? Or maybe there's another way. Maybe it's about leveraging whatever is already existing, whether it's Android Pay, Apple Pay, or Samsung Pay, right? You've got these native platforms that are already pre-built, pre-installed on the phone. Why not use it? Why not explore? Discovery. You know, I always talk about things have to be habit forming. One reason why credit card is so great, habit forming, right? We're all used to it. This panel here mentioned a lot about, like, you know, the value there. We need value in order to have the adoption increase, right? Well, make it habit forming. Leverage these mobile payment platforms so that you can actually create the habit where people, at the end of the day, and I'm gonna just paint a picture here. At the end of the day, let's say 5 years down the road, you don't need a physical wallet. Every single piece of paper in your wallet goes digital, right? Whether it's your event tickets, your loyalty cards, your coupons, that is habit forming. And I think that's what we really need.
Chris, would you have any comments?
Yeah, I do think one of the challenges is that the payments industry is steeped in payments experience and not loyalty and marketing experience. So I think for me as a non-payments guy, it's been a bit surprising how, in our discussions with all the payments platforms, how challenging the payment side still is. That I think almost everyone's through okay, now we've actually figured out how to get multiple cards, payment cards into a single app. Now kind of lift their heads up and figure out how to do the next thing, but have really no experience in the loyalty side of the world. And the fact, again, problem we're trying to solve is there was just no coherent technical infrastructure in the loyalty world to add that. But when that gets figured out, I do think one of the benefits of one of the reasons of Starbucks' success is just the Starbucks brand is very powerful. There's an aspirational value to the Starbucks brand and the $9 latte for free. I mean, they bill the most expensive reward redemption ever keeps going up. I think it's up to $70-something while you add all the syrups and everything into a venti. But so there is and that's really, I think, the power of non-retail loyalty programs is the aspirational value of it. Is the people are collecting their hotel and airline and credit card points to go somewhere. Everyone is going to Hawaii on vacation by collecting all these points. Most people end up using them to go to Cousin Phil's wedding in Des Moines, but the fact that I can buy that sweater and get something that helps me get closer to Hawaii is a very powerful incentive tool. More than lots of studies show that people will really significantly change their buying habits to earn their favorite rewards. So it's really about replicating that experience inside of the digital payment stream.
Yeah, all the general purpose wallets have launched with the ability to integrate loyalty for a merchant. Almost nobody's using it. I asked this question myself last fall, so I went and interviewed most of the top 20 retailers in the U.S., their head of payments. The two big answers I heard was, I can't deliver a single experience to my customer, and in my loyalty program, that's critical. So this difference between Apple and everything else is too much for me to manage. And the second one is, I don't trust anybody, and I especially don't trust Google. And I don't care, Jack was here yesterday, right? Jack's a great guy, and I know the first page when he sits down with a merchant to talk about Android Pay is, we won't look at your data. They don't believe him, right? Because of the history there. So the second piece is this skepticism about data ownership and this battle over, access to that sort of stuff. So those are the two biggest things that I've seen.
So we actually have a partnership with Alaska Airlines. We power all of their boarding passes, and we actually do use geo-aware location. And the way Alaska actually integrates it is that if you go into the northwest and you're at an airport, and let's say the gate changes, right? Because you have that boarding pass, that pass will automatically update. Not only that, but that pass will actually send out a notification on your home screen to tell you, hey, by the way, your flight has changed and it's now leaving from gate B4 or something. So this technology exists, right? Geolocation awareness is very important, and it brings to a point about what is the value of a mobile wallet. I would argue that yes, you absolutely need to move towards payment, but on the non-payment side, it's definitely a great marketing channel, right? It is a mobile-centric marketing channel. And if you think about brands, what's really important for them, there are really two elephants in the room: social and mobile. Everyone is thinking about, what do I need to do on social? How do I amplify? Mobile. What do I need to do to get on mobile? And Varian, you were talking about the study, or you were talking about having 40 apps, right? I mean, there is that Forrester study that says that no more than 2 retail apps get onto the phone, and that came out last year in October of 2015. So the question then becomes, what is it that you need to do to get yourself on mobile? And I think every merchant should be asking themselves that. If you have an app, great. So you're going to reach 5% of your audience, right? On a good day, right? And I want to also introduce a concept. We always talk about like target addressable market, right? Total addressable market. What's your mobile addressable market? And how are you reaching folks on your mobile addressable market, right? So we've got 5% of people who are on apps. How are you reaching the other 95%? Right? So I want to impart on this conference that people need to really think about those two elephants and how you are going to have that mobile footprint.
Just to add to your point, one of the things, this functionality of Geo, if you have a pass inside a wallet, especially in case of Apple Pay, then you have that functionality. It's just not a lot of people are aware. If you have a Starbucks pass in your wallet, you are geofenced.
Well, I just want to know why we're not seeing this tech
Well,
adoption.
I think part of it is as the merchants are learning about this functionality, the functionality themselves are evolving. It started off with Apple Pay. I think Android Pay is supporting now as well, and other Samsung Pay is coming on board with such functionality which are critical. And you know, to the point that was made earlier today, the wallets, I see them as another channel. We talked about you know, channels yesterday a little bit. So you have online, you know, you've got online portal and online ordering, whatever you want to call it. Then you have an app, you know, 5% targetable addressable market, 10% on a good day. Then you have wallets. Wallets are another channel. It's just not for payment. You got payment, loyalty, and marketing in there. You can give targeted messages. Even today, I don't think people are aware of it yet. The functionality is just not getting used as often as it should. So there is an awareness issue that we need to solve here.
Yeah, the only other comment I'll make is that I think, you know, when you look at geofencing and just location-based marketing, I think we're still on the cusp of, is it creepy and invasive? And, you know, but retailers are absolutely, they're testing it, they're trying to figure out how do you do that. And I think the point that it's around the brand, so is it reflective of their brand and what they want to do? And can you do it in a way that, you know, that the consumer feels that it's you know, it's a good feeling versus a I'm getting creeped out feeling.
Well, thanks, panelists, for your participation. Hopefully this was helpful to everybody, and if you have questions afterwards, come find any one of us.